speech. Help me welcome Jen.
Good afternoon, almost afternoon, everyone. It's a great day to be here at Toastmasters. It's our favorite speech in the whole book, The Icebreaker.
Yeah.
And the point of this speech is the first speech that you give in Toastmasters. And simply, it's just to be here in front of a crowd and be used to being in front of them. To work on those nervous fears that we have, the nervous ways that we show that, and just get comfortable in front of being in front of people. Today, giving that speech will be Sanju Guinn. She has an intriguing title already because I know she comes from a different culture. And that's the great thing about Toastmasters is being able to meet people and hear their story. So please let her know she's among friends with a big, rousing round of applause welcome for Sanju Guinn. Details, 4 to 6 minutes on this speech, and her speech title is The Non-Traditional Indian.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, fellow Toastmasters and guests. For those of you that I have not had an opportunity to speak to or meet, my name is Sanju Guinn. I know when people first hear my name or see it, they hesitate to pronounce it as it's not a typical name. My name actually is not hard. I have it written on the board there, Sanju. It actually is an Indian origin. I was born in New Delhi, India, the youngest of 3. My parents immigrated to America in the early 70s. I was almost 3 when we arrived. When we first arrived in the States, we lived in Detroit. We then moved to Dearborn Heights, where I grew up and graduated from high school. Growing up was fun, however, it had its restrictions. I have many fond memories with my siblings, my cousins, my older relatives. My parents were very strict and traditional. I, however, found every loophole to get what I wanted. I actually used being Daddy's little girl to my advantage. Mom was a little stricter, but trust me, I crossed my limits with my dad, too. I remember when I was old enough, I wanted to work at McDonald's, and my mom promised to take me for an interview. She later changed her mind. So then I decided to go on a hunger strike and not speak to anyone. Well, that lasted for about 6 hours until my dad came home and tried to convince me to change my mind. Well, I was hard-headed and I refused. So back in those days, parents were allowed to beat their kids without it being considered child abuse. Let's just say that night I got beat, or in other words, whooped. That didn't change me from trying things in the future. I grew up watching how traditional Indian women were to behave and decided that that was not for me. Back in those days, women were not allowed to be independent, and I felt they had no rights. Growing up, they were dependent on their parents, and then they were later expected to get married and be dependent on their husbands and his family. It seemed as if their whole life was planned out for them by someone else. I decided at an early age I wanted to go away to college and be on my own and make my own decisions. The only problem was there was no other female in my family that had gone away to college. So my junior year in high school, I had an opportunity to go to senior prom. Well, my dad didn't want me to go as he feared the Indian boy who asked me I would marry one day. So I was older this time, and I decided to give my dad the silent treatment again. After 2 weeks of the silent treatment, and after my brother came to speak to my dad, I was allowed to go to prom with the understanding that I was not going to go to my senior prom, which was fine with me. My date came to pick me up. My dad came out of his room, sat on his lazy boy, reclined, and didn't speak a word to my date or to me. My mom, on the other hand, was delighted, as my date was every Indian mother's dream son-in-law. So I decided if I could find my way to prom, I could find my way to go away to college. When the time came to send in my applications, I applied to 3 colleges: Eastern, Western, and Adrian. My siblings actually went to Wayne State, and there were way too many Indian people at that college already that I didn't want to be added to the population. So fortunately, my cousin went to Eastern, and so my dad allowed me to go to Eastern. But remember, I wanted to go away to college. So thank goodness for the ROTC. Now, I didn't join the ROTC. They just gave me a good idea on how I could convince my parents to go away to college. My dad promised me a brand new car, and I promised my dad I could join the ROTC and get free room and board. With the Gulf War in progress, Mom and Dad feared that I'd be sent to war, so my plan worked and they sent me away to college. I used the 8 years that it took me to graduate with my bachelor's degree to set myself up to be 100% independent and financially stable. So that meant that I'd have to pay my own bills, worked a full-time real job with benefits, paid rent, a car note, whatever it took. I lived on my own until I got married. I was the first female in the family to have lived on my own for many years and refused to move back with my parents. This was uncommon back in those days. However, to me it was important that I could make my own decisions and live on my own. My cousins who immigrated from India in their older years refer to many of us who came to the States as young kids as an ABCD. That meant American born, confused, and dizzy, even though many of us were never born in America. So we in turn called them FOBs, fresh off the boat. Our two cultures definitely clashed, and we still enjoyed each other's company and loved each other dearly. Now when it came time to get married, my parents tried their traditional route, which I wanted nothing to do with. I've seen how the typical traditional Indian men were, and I decided that I did not want to go to jail for murder. I was your typical 90s girl. I didn't need a man, let alone did I want to marry somebody that I had to ask permission to do anything for. No way. They tried arranged marriages, which I always found a way to mess up on purpose. My mom's last resort was placing an ad in the Indian matrimonial. Even though I asked her not to, she spent $100 on this ad. This was the same time I was dating my future husband. We actually met on eHarmony. We were matched September 27, 2005, and we were married September 30th, 2006. We just celebrated our 9-year anniversary, so I'm here to tell you, for anyone who's single, eHarmony works, and my husband and I are perfect for each other. Although I'm not your typical Indian woman, I value the principles my parents taught me, which is faith in God, your family, a good education, and working hard. As I've gotten older, I am very protective of my mom, as my dad passed in 2008. And although in my older years my dad and I did not see eye to eye as his traditional ways clash with my Western ways, I truly miss him. And remember all the life lessons he taught me. I take full credit for all the gray hair on his head and all that my mom had. Although life wasn't always easy growing up, and there was always lots of traditional barriers to fight through, they were all worth it because it has made me the woman I am today. Thank you.